Hello and welcome to episode 148 of the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my colleague who is sometimes helpful, but that is not very frequently, Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you this evening?
I feel like helping you. I feel like doing anything I can to assist. In any way, I sit at your command.
Well, then, as we used to say all the time in Boston Brass, hey, you know that thing you do? Yeah, don't.
You don't do that.
Yeah. So I believe the first time that JD said that in my direction, I laughed very hard. Don't tell him I said that. So we had a wonderful conversation with Abby Lannan and Scott Sutherland.
Very fun. It was great to have them on. We've known Scott for a long time, and I've known Abby longer than you and Scott have, because Abby was
What is it, a competition?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I win at the Knowing Abby Longest competition. I don't know. But Abby was one of my master's candidates at Carnegie Mellon University. She was an awesome student, and now she's an awesome freelancer and player and creator and innovator. And we've kind of partnered up and created the Wonder Twins with her and Scott Sutherland. Those two put together this Media Makers workshop. So we got to know about Abby. We got to get a lot of information, I thought, about how to how to navigate the waters technologically as an artist, like what goes into making quality content that you can serve up from your own home.
Speaking, this is apropos of nothing, which is my specialty. Speaking of the Wonder Twins, going around the virtual first grade class, and everybody's being asked what their superpower could be, and kids were saying like fly and do random stuff, and then my son said that, and Pat Sheridan drops in right in the middle of our intro. I love it. So my son says, he said that the superpower that he wants is he wants to be able to change himself into an object, but then he wants to be able to change himself back to himself while still maintaining the ability to use the object. That was the very specific superpower that he requested from his first grade teacher, which got a chuckle. And then he used some examples.
Object? Yeah, I was going to say what.
He's watching it's all weapons. It's all
potato peeler.
Yeah, like washing machine, things like that. So anyway, you're probably wondering why Pat just showed up, but we are actually about to stream something on Facebook, which is going to be available after the fact, which, when you're hearing this, it will be after the fact. We're about to stream a whole hour with Pat to promote the Brass Legacy Project with Sam Palafian, which is an event on Sunday, October 18th. You can find out more information at our website. And also, quickly, the Media Makers Workshop is available. When you hear this, it will be available. There's 4 sessions: audio recording and editing, video recording and editing, streaming, and arranging. Whole thing is $49. This is with Abby and Scott. They do an amazing job. You can also get any of those individual classes for $19. You can find out more information. You hear all about it during this interview at MediaMakersWorkshop.com. But we actually have a big announcement here. Lance, what's the big announcement?
I don't know. What's the big announcement?
Oh, you were supposed to do that part, and then I was supposed to do the other part.
We're having a euphonium workshop. Can you believe it? It's on
we
the
are.
24th of October, 2020, in the year of our Lord. It's $49, and you get, for $49, you show up at noon Eastern Standard Time on the
Fifth Valve.
Exactly. Yeah, but you got to use your big toes on your left
right
foot
now.
to use it. So who do we got? I'm glad you asked, Pat. We have Gail Robertson's going to do a warm-up class. We've got clinics with Damondre Thurman, David Thornton, and Dr. Brian Bowman. And then I'm going to do a music practice coach session as well. So all of that information packed into one spectacular day. And it's $49. But you can get it for $39 if you use the offer code compensating, which is good. And that's for sure. That's a true statement.
Spend their whole career doing it. That's for sure.
$100, exactly. And that offer code compensating works for until Monday the 19th. And then the stream of the events of October 24th, the Euphonium Workshop, will be available through January 1st, 2021. Sign up now
So you can watch it live or after the fact. Yep. Media Makers Workshop, Euphonium Workshop. And let's, without further ado, let's get to the conversation that we had with Abby Lannan and Scott Sutherland. And today on the podcast, we are joined by a bunch of flies in Lance's house because he opened all the doors and windows, and apparently there are things in his house which attract flies. We are also joined by two friends, Scott Sutherland and Abby. How do you pronounce your last name? Is it Lannan?
Lannan. It's not hard.
Lannan? I thought it was Lannan.
I thought it was. I never remember. Yeah. No, I'm teasing because Abby does a ton of amazing work for us at Pedal Note Media. She's our conscience. She's the person who probably does the most work. That's why I pretended to not be able to pronounce her name for jokes. So it's great for you both to join us.
Thank you for
it's great
having
to be here.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounded nearly sincere.
It was really close. It was really close.
It's real.
I've been rehearsing it for the last 30 minutes.
Yeah,
it's great.
Very happy
it's great
to
be
here.
Thank you for this honor.
So,
thank you for this opportunity. I couldn't write small enough. Sorry.
For those of you who are listening and not watching this on our YouTube channel, Lance
Poor
just
people.
pretended like he had this speech written on a stack of Post-it notes, and so anyway.
One word per Post-it.
That was or half of a word apparently. So Scott and Abby did a thing.
We did a thing
called the Media Makers Workshop.
You did, and it contains several things within the bigger thing. And so this took place in what, August, yes?
Yes.
And it was what?
It was kind of dissecting our whole process on how to do multi-track videos, and kind of online content from arranging music to recording audio to video recording and editing, and then kind of
what it's
also
like streaming, like
streaming and how to handle all that stuff and make yourself look like a pro.
And so you two have been doing
Lance
this.
Needs that.
You two have been doing this for a long time, and now all of a sudden, this is probably beyond just being able to play your instrument. This is the most important set of skills that you should be developing now. And oh, by the way, at least over the summer, people had time to be doing that. What did it feel like when it? I mean, how did your inboxes blow up after? Because you guys have had quite the reputation online for a while in terms of making these things. So what was the experience like as people figured out, oh, these two know how to do that. How do I get after them? Were you kind of flooded with requests?
Me, I don't think so much. It was mostly a bunch of close friends who kind of came to me and they were like, hey, I have arrangements. Like, how do I start recording? Or, you see a bunch of online forums on Facebook or Twitter or whatnot, like, hey, what's the best software to do this editing? What's the best this to do this way? And I think how a little bit of Media Makers came to be was you see this jumble of information across a bunch of different platforms and you're like, okay, how do we, as people who know how to do this and have had experience doing this, how do we take this and present it in a way that's, concise, easy to learn and comprehend, and then be like, okay, now everyone can do it kind of deal. So my inboxes were mostly just my friends to answer that question.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I started off doing a duet project where I recorded one part of a duet and then put all the sheet music up on my website. This was like within a week of quarantine, and that kind of got the ball rolling. It was just kind of a fun way for people to kind of make music with me, and I would compile the videos together in the audio and throw it up on Instagram and such. But then shortly after that, kind of waned. I was approached by Bobo to do a big, massive project that he's been wanting to do for years, which eventually ended up being this Nimrod with 100 Tuba and Euphonium players from around the world. So that's probably the biggest, request that kind of came into my inbox, for a project pretty early on in all of this.
Would you say that the majority of questions that you get or continue to get have to do with, is it kind of all over the map, or is it more about equipment or platforms or process, or is it just sort of all of it?
In my experience, everyone just wants to know what I used. They want to know what microphone I used, what camera did I... Actually, they don't even ask about cameras. They ask about my microphone, and they ask about what software I use. That's primarily. And then usually it stops from there because people get intimidated by the software. They get intimidated by XLR, and this is why we created this course, because it kind of goes step by step and kind of demystifies the whole process.
Well, that's what I really liked about. I mean, in watching them, I really enjoyed not only the content but the rapport that you two had. I thought it was a really nice balance between the two of you. Yeah, it shocked me as well. So, was that how did you guys rehearse, or how did you kind of figure out what you were doing in each of the courses?
I think Scott kind of took the lead in terms of who did the first day? You did the first day arranging. And he took it and he made a presentation, and then we were talking about like what we wanted to talk about and who was gonna, kind of spearhead each day. And we did a lot of Zoom calls and just kind of got to know each other. And it turns out, we're both nerds in one way or another. And he's like, I'd say a film nerd, and then I'm more of like video game nerd. And it just kind of works where you just appreciate the nerd and the communication works out, and it's just, get along like that.
Well, I just found that I just made fun of her a lot, and then she took it, and so that really that's kind of the best case scenario, right? No, I don't know. It seems like you guys have the same sort of relationship with Ms. Lannan. No, okay.
Oh, Andrew shakes his head.
Yeah. I don't make fun of anybody.
Even
I always take the high road.
Andrew's never made fun of me, ever.
I never blow out someone else's flame to make my own glow brighter. I stumbled on that twice.
Say that.
Yeah, I stumbled on that twice.
Me talk good. You bad. Me good. You bad.
Oh.
So actually, we should maybe pause here because we've had Scott on the show before, but Abby, we have not formally interviewed or I would not. I almost said. Exposed to our audience, but we've if you've gone to any of the live events, then you've had the opportunity to see Abby at the beginnings of the calls, and she kind of helps make sure the trains are all running on time. But Abby,
she makes sure that we show up.
Yeah. Abby,
Where's
why don't you tell the nice people a little bit about yourself? Where are you from, for example?
Oh boy, I'm from Parkland, Florida, down in South Florida. So I grew up there. I was born in California, grew up in South Florida, moved to Pittsburgh to pursue my master's in euphonium performance, and I studied with the Lance LaDuke.
What?
The Lance LaDuke?
The Lance LaDuke. Some guy who plays euphonium and has a podcast, I hear.
La means the, right? So that was the Duke.
No, try T.
The Lance the Duke.
TT.
I studied with the Duke.
Oh,
and
hold on a second. How did you get onto the euphonium in the first place? Was that your first instrument?
Yeah, it was. Well, I sort of. So I picked up piano when I was real little, but I never took it seriously.
You picked up a piano when you were little?
Listen, everyone said that I should go into weightlifting, but then I was like, I just like to press the keys. So
there's a famous story in my hometown of Sudbury, Massachusetts, where Babe Ruth used to have a house that supposedly one night when he was super drunk that he lifted a piano up and then walked down the hill and threw it into a pond. And they have actually that can't be true, but there have actually been people who have like gone scuba diving to try and find the remnants of this piano from like 1916 from this infamous bender that he went on. So
Amazing.
yep,
It's Loch
so,
Ness.
yeah,
I
exactly.
did the same thing when I was 10, but then I decided that I did band in middle school, and I got the choice between flute or baritone, and based on gender stereotypes, I was like, I'm not a girly girl. I don't want to play the flute, so I just picked the baritone, even though I had no idea what it was, and then just kind of stuck.
What's the difference between a baritone and a euphonium?
Oh my gosh.
Of $4,000.
Abby, you were supposed to start answering, and then I was going to interrupt you and say nobody cares, but you didn't, so you stepped in it. So anyway,
I just knew what was coming, so.
And so you did your undergraduate degree where?
I did my undergrad at Florida State University. Did it in music education, which, if I can plug for it, I think music education is a wonderful program that especially euphonium players, I think, should strongly consider, just because it taught me a lot of how to teach. And as any sort of, obviously, hello, music ed, but I think if you're going to be a musician of any sort, you're going to teach somewhere, some way, somehow. So why not learn how to do it well? And have people who teach for a living teach you how to teach, and so on and so forth. And then at the end of that, I was like, I just kind of want to, at that point, my whole mindset was I want to go like that quote unquote stereotypical euphonium path, where it was, I'm going to pursue performance degrees from here on out, get a master's, get a DMA, go for military band auditions, try to get a professorship somewhere, and just kind of be like the euphonium player, right? And I took auditions, I met with Lance, and I was like, this seems like the right kind of teacher for me. And then within, I think, like the first 3 weeks, everything was
You
like...
realized it was a mistake.
I don't think it was a mistake, because I'm in a completely different path than I was when I started at my master's, and I'm a lot happier for it. I feel a lot more independent and independent individual, and that's not the right word for it, but more like I have a better idea of what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing a lot more than just like, oh, euphonium repertoire, which is great and fantastic, and if you're doing that, hey, congratulations, wonderful for you, but that's just not the route that I ended up really wanting to do.
Well, what is it that, how do you describe what it is that you do, or what that path looks like?
So, oh gosh, it's like a freelance gig right now, and it's just kind of me doing what I want to do with music no matter what. So it's, doing competitions and performing euphonium competitions and strictly euphonium repertoire is fantastic, but I have really fallen in love with like video game music and arranging and making videos and just having fun with it. And I was like, I like to share positivity and kindness and mental health awareness, because it's something that I saw was sort of lacking in the music world, in terms of, you get into a practice room and so many people are like, oh, well, I missed this note, so I hate myself and I'm terrible. And it's like, well, that's not the right mindset to have. It's okay to say, okay, well, I made a mistake. Let's not make a mistake again. Let's work towards not making more mistakes. But basing who you are as a person and the value of yourself as a person on how many notes you missed in a day is just not the right mentality. And I think a lot of musicians, especially young ones, or adult amateurs who are just doing it for a hobby, they start to dislike music and dislike creating music because because they're not perfect, because they're not pursuing this professional level of, oh my gosh, I can play literally everything on a page kind of deal. So it's all about sharing just the love of music and the love of creating music, no matter what it is. All music is beautiful music, no matter how you're making it, as long as you're putting your heart and soul into it. And yeah.
How do we make more? This sounds like a facetious question, and it isn't. How do we make more of you? How do we extract the DNA and replicate this?
Let people play what they want to play, I think. So you get into young students, middle school, high school, and they want to play all the, meme songs and the silly tunes and whatever. And then you get the band directors who roll their eyes, or you get the kids who like come up to the band directors and say, look, I made this arrangement, and the arrangement is terrible and it's not great, and it's made on like the cheapest free software ever, and they've never done it before. So again, it's not great, but they did it, and they took the time outside of classes and homework and practicing to make this, and the band director will scoff, and that's just going to put them down. Just, encourage letting them do what they want to do. How many people get so tired of band music when they just want to play music and play the stuff that they want to play?
So do you think that is because the music educators don't have, I don't mean appreciation in terms of the aesthetic of it, but they don't understand the Rosetta Stone for taking this piece that's from a video game and how do I fit that into my curriculum? I mean, is it more about that, or do you think there's this bias against popular music, or however you would describe?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Both. So there's definitely a stereotype against music that isn't the classical repertoire that we go into every day. And it's like, if a lot of music educators, the people who decide the music for MPA, if they don't see value in the educational side of the music, then they're not going to pick it for MPA programs, and therefore people aren't going to play that kind of music a lot of times. As well as the fact is people just see video game music as like, oh, it's not art, it's not a certain way, it's just, boring, it's repetitive, it's this, that, and the other. I kind of lost my train of thought here, but it's
that's I think you're onto it.
It's
both. It's not an either or. It's that the educators need to be educated as to how to integrate this into what they're doing.
Exactly.
And they also need to be more willing to just let the students sort of stretch.
Yes, and it's like a lot of times I think music educators, especially these days, the young ones that are coming in, want to do more fun stuff and just share their love of music with their students, but then they don't have the time because they have 102 jobs to do during the day. They don't have the time to pursue that kind of thing and make the music for their students and then be able to teach that music to their students and have that kind of connection with it, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
I've really enjoyed that lately. There's been this influx of YouTube videos, like really well done YouTube videos that have analyzed things like hip hop and things, more popular music. And to be super clear, none of those other art forms need in any way to justify why they are important. Because if you fail to see any value in them because whoever you are, have a super defined idea of what is proper music or educationally relevant music, that's your problem and not the art form's problem to educate your ignorant ass, if I may put a fine point on it. But I think it's really cool that people are starting to just to say, hey, actually, okay, we'll play this game, and then analyzing someone's rapping in terms of like just all sorts of like the shifting of rhythmic modulations and all of this really kind of highly technical stuff. And I love the fact that there are some people, and they're really high quality videos too, who are playing that game of, okay, here's why you're ignorant, not just because you need to expand your horizons, but you're actually wrong about the narrow point that you're making in the first place. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think the first step is valuing it in the first place, right? Because otherwise it's like, okay, I'll let Abby just do that, I'll allow her to do that video game music, as if that's like letting your kid have 2 cookies before dinner. It's like it's a treat, but she has to then eat, like a balanced meal kind of thing. But video game music isn't cookies, right?
Yeah. It's like the big stereotype that I'm trying to fight nowadays is that the people who make it's a stereotype where they see the people who make video game arrangements or movie arrangements or this kind of stuff that Scott and I do independently, that they look at us and they think that we're lesser performers because we're playing this quote unquote lesser music. And it's not the case. It's simply not true. I think one of the best examples that I had of really just opening my eyes to how incredible the video game music world was when I went to MagFest last year in December, at the end of December. Or no, it was in January. It was after New Year's. And I went and I saw this band. I'm, quietly plugging them, Disco Cactus. And it's just a bunch. I met the percussionist on a Twitch stream, and he does really awesome Twitch streams, and he's a really cool person. He has a band called Disco Cactus, and they're all incredibly well-trained, like high-level musicians, and they take these video game arrangements and they make it their own, and they perform it in a style that's sort of similar to like Snarky Puppy. And it is just simply so cool. You get this giant room that's, you know, performance hall essentially, and they make the stage, and then you go and you watch, and it was packed, and all of these people are screaming for this, and they're like, yes, I want to look at this music that I relate to, listen to how great this is. And it's not like, oh, they don't understand music so they like it. It's really, really good stuff. And I was like, this is what I want to do. It's like, this is like what I really enjoy listening to and participating in and creating myself. And it's like, they're not any lesser musicians because they do this. They're high level. They just choose to use their skills in this manner. It doesn't make them better or worse than anybody else.
Scott, I want to lead you down a similar path, but before we do that, I want to let you know that Duquesne University Mary Pappert School of Music is a proud, is a regular, long-standing sponsor of the Brass Junkies.
They have never used the word proud.
Yeah, they didn't. Why should I? So, but they have been long-standing supporters of the show, and for that, we are greatly appreciative. So there is a link in the show notes which will take you to a page at the Pappert School website where you can find out about all the goings-on in the brass area. We want to encourage you to click on that and find out what they have going on. And very, very special thanks to Jim, Proud Mary Nova, for making that possible. Now, Scott, you have gone in a parallel path, as we mentioned before, but your forte is with film music largely. So did that desire or drive come out of a similar thing to what Abby was talking about? This was just music that you dug, or like what? I mean, how did it come about that was the music you decided to take on?
Well, I've always loved film music. I've always had a very large, CD collection of film music. I've always collected all of it, and I definitely love, the genre. But it just was practical because I had done all of these quintet arrangements for Presidio Brass for a program called Sounds of the Cinema. So my very first YouTube video was just an adaptation of a quintet arrangement that I did, and I just adapted it for Tuba Euphonium, and I've done that for a handful of my kind of first videos. So it was just, I had taken steps, on the journey, and why do anything different? Go with what I know and go with what I'm comfortable with, and it was just easier to go that route, and I love it. I mean, I really do.
How do you go about deciding what you're going to tackle next, or how A, and then B, how long of a list of tunes do you have? Like, I want to do this versus that, or
yeah. So my daughter is my advisor. She is 17, and she knows all things pop culture.
She's 17. She knows all things. All 17-year-olds know all things. Male, female, otherwise, all know all.
Oh my, does she ever? And I have my Evernote list, and we add to it on a weekly basis. It's just something that we listen to. I have a whole bunch of anime tunes that apparently I'm supposed to do. Because she loves anime. The big reason why I did my first Zelda arrangement was because my daughter was playing Breath of the Wild, and she's like, oh my gosh, this Hyrule Castle theme is amazing. You need to do it on... I'm like, oh, okay, fine. And so I did it, and I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty cool. So it had organ and everything. It was really neat. But yeah, I have a huge list. It's probably over 100 tunes that I just kind of pick from, and a lot of times I'll look through and see what's being released. If there's a new movie out, if there's a sequel or prequel that is coming out, I'll try to kind of coordinate that schedule with whatever it is that I'm going to be working on, certain holidays and such like that. But it largely comes from my 17-year-old daughter. So
if someone wanted to start going down this road, how much time would you say they need to set aside to, like, for the arranging portion, then the audio recording portion, the video, then the posting, and the sort of all? Is there such a thing as a standard amount of time, days, weeks, months, whatever?
If I'm doing like a John Williams tune, I'm doing something pretty intense. That requires, 10 instruments or so. It will probably take me between 6 and 8 hours to do the arrangement. If I'm doing it right, getting all the details in there. Probably about the same amount of time to do the audio, and then depending on how intense I try to do, how intricate I try to do the video part, that could take anywhere from 8 to 10 hours. So it's if I have nothing on my dock, I could do it in 3 days. Boom, boom, boom. But that's a pretty rare occurrence.
Well, I was going to ask you that. And does your brain work in, like, are you better off doing an hour consistently, an hour a day for a while, or to just like lock yourself away and knock it out in 4 hours or 8 hours? Or, I mean, some of it's just due to life. Like there's certain limitations there. But if you had your preferred methodology, how would you do that?
Well, I am trying to learn to take breaks now. I'm like practicing with an interval timer that's like, no, take a break now, dude. Because I get in a zone, and when I'm arranging, I'm pretty oblivious to the outside world. Sounds are swimming in my head, and I'm thinking about form, and I'm thinking about colors and everything else. And
well, does that change? Like, so that's for the writing part. Does that approach change when you get to the recording part of it?
Yeah, especially the video, maybe not so much. I tend to get in a zone with there, but just chops. I absolutely need to do about an hour and a half, and then I need to take a break, and then another hour and a half, and I can probably take a break. If it's euphonium, I have to take a break every 6 minutes. Because that
just emotionally, it's just.
You should try a baritone. They're totally different.
I just I play euphonium for about 2 hours once a month.
Me too.
I was gonna say, I think that might be more than Lance.
I was waiting for that.
But it goes to show you that clearly the euphonium is a very easy instrument to play, because I only have to pick it up once a month for a couple of hours and pop out high Ds. So,
well, all jokes aside, it's definitely the easiest instrument to get a decent sound on right out of the gate. It's like saxophone of the brass world. But then to get to the Abby Lannan level takes a lot more time and effort.
Yeah, at least 2 weeks. Yeah, I understand.
It's also similar to the saxophone, because half of the solo lid of each instrument is.
True. Also true.
I'd like to say, that I appreciate euphonium solo literature, even the crazy stuff, more than the crazy saxophone literature. And I know this is like on air, but
burn.
Yeah.
What's the quote? It's all Danny Boy or fast as hell. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Fast
That
as
was
hell or Danny
Bobo's
Boy.
line. Yeah.
Yep.
All you funny.
So, same question for Abby, because I find this subject interesting. Do you tend to, when you do one of your for Abby videos and arrangements, do you just lock yourself in your office for all day for a couple of days, or how does your workflow look?
It pretty much the same as Scott's. When it comes to arranging, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is probably going to take longer than him, because I'm still newer at it and I'm still figuring out what works, what I should be doing, and whatnot. So right now I'm working on an arrangement, and I sat down last night at maybe 10 p.m. and I just started it, and I got a quarter and a half of the way through it, but I forced myself to go to bed because all of a sudden it was 2 in the morning, and I was like, oh, maybe I should go get some rest. So that happened. That's kind of how it goes, is I just kind of sit down, and arranging is very much I'm in the zone. It's measure by measure. There was, I think, one of the first arrangements I did in 4 hours. It was all by ear. It was a 2-minute piece, and it was just don't talk to me. I'm doing this right now. 4.5 hours of nothing but this screen and these notes. When it comes to recording, I'm lucky that my stuff is usually no more than 4 or 5 parts. It can sit down in a one span of time in maybe 3 hours, and then just get it all out of the way. Recording wise in Audacity and whatnot, editing will take me anywhere from 5 to 6 hours for a 1-minute piece. And usually my stuff is relatively short because we're slowly getting longer here. And then video stuff, it has to all be done at once, and it has to be done in a period of time during the day where if there's a difference between 6 o'clock and 6:20, in terms of the lighting, if I'm outside, like it can't be done in that time period. It has to be like, 12 to 12:20 when there's no obvious difference in the sun, hopefully. Just because if I'm doing that video where there are 4 of me, you can really easily see those lines draw out in the video, and I do not want that.
Wow.
And video editing, it depends on, again, how intricate it is. It can take, I'm getting a lot more efficient with it, so my videos will take maybe an hour to 3 at most, unless I'm getting really, really nitpicky with it, and then it can take upwards of 10. So
between arranging audio and video, which would you say has the steepest learning curve?
Is that for both of us? Because I want to say, like,
I like that it stumped both of your faces at once.
Yeah.
I was like, I could answer. I know nothing about this, but I could answer.
I'd say video or audio editing for both of them. In terms of arranging, it's a lot of, if you've been in music school and you've learned music theory, a lot of that is just kind of applying that to what you've done. So that's kind of where it's like, oh yeah, I know how this goes. I know progressions. It's basic.
That's
But-
if you went to class.
Yeah, of course.
Well, let me ask it a different way, which is, how much time, if you wanted to do this, how much time should you spend developing the skills required to drive the platform? So in other words, like to really learning the ins and outs of Final Cut Pro, or learning the ins and outs of the mechanics, because you both are fantastic players, so the playing part of it you can do because you've been doing that for years. But should you spend some time doing reps just in terms of the audio recording or the video editing, or how, if you wanted to maximize your effort, where would you spend that time?
I would start with a project. I wouldn't do necessarily reps. I would just start with a project and do the best you can. As long as it's 80%, it's an MVP, and then ship it, and then do the next one. And you will immediately up your game with those reps being end products. And that's how I learned.
What's an MVP, Scott?
A minimally viable product. I learned it on a podcast I listen to sometimes.
Seth Godin?
Oh.
Yeah.
Akimbo.
It's funny because I've been preaching that idea for years, and then I heard, oh, there's an actual term for it. Okay, that's good.
I actually came up with it. I coined it.
Did you? Yeah.
Wow.
Really? Because I seem to remember reading a book that was all about it. Yeah, that's interesting. They must have stolen your idea. Yeah. So, I feel like I think you just have to dive in, and you have to make mistakes, and you have to get it to the finish line, and then get it out there, and then just do a new project. The idea of waiting until you really know a program, or waiting until you really understand arranging. It's funny that question that you asked about which 3. I was actually going to say the arranging is the hardest thing, because I see the software is you just have to learn a software, but the arranging is, I think, where the most art comes from, and you can paint by numbers in terms of arranging, and there's, that's where you go to school, is to paint by numbers and figure out the ranges, and, figure out that you have to actually include rest every once in a while for people, But I think where the art comes in is how you're going to, voice things, and how you're going to crunch this up and then spread this out and have an arc over the course of an arrangement. That takes years to develop, I think. And I think anybody who has the drive can probably learn any one of these programs that we're talking about within a few hours, and then every problem that you run into after that, you just do a YouTube search for a tutorial, probably. But it's that first couple of hours that's really important to learn the step by step to get you to that point. Again, this is the reason why we have the course. To demystify it so that people can dive in and not feel intimidated. You dive in, and then from then on, you can make your mistakes here and there, and find your Google you know, a tutorial or whatever, or your YouTube tutorial, and get yourself out of that corner. You know?
One of the things I really liked about your course as well was that I think there's a notion that you've got to sink tons of money into this before you can get started, and you use open source software, so Audacity, and I don't remember the name of the video platform.
DaVinci Resolve.
DaVinci Resolve. So I mean, this is like after you've paid for the course, which we hope you do. Well, then the rest of it, you don't need to spend a dime. You can start with whatever you have, and that's just really cool. So I think, well, I hope a lot of people sign up for it because I think it's an incredibly valuable service that you guys put out there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's something that you know, right now I think this is an incredibly creative time. You know, we're as soon as you're limited, that's when I think the creative juices flow. When you have too many options, it's easy to get overwhelmed. But right now we're limited to, okay, you're stuck in a place and you can't really go anywhere. And what can you do with this? Right now I'm teaching a bunch of all the students at University of Redlands how to do all this stuff, and I'm trying to get them to do it on their own. You know, because the way I see it, we shouldn't be using technology right now just to facilitate the old way we have been doing music education. We should be using this opportunity to use technology to completely change the way we see music education and the avenues that we can go down. And, you know,
Can you put down caps locks and then say that again, please?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I like, so I prepped all of my students at Redlands that we were going to basically create music videos for their recitals and their juries. And we were going to get creative with it. We were going to have a visual that that goes with the music, and you weren't going to be in some music hall somewhere playing to an imaginary audience. You were going to be outside, or you were going to be wherever it is. You know, you're going to be out by the beach, or you're going to be in the park, and then, you know, it came down the pike that we're just, no, everyone's just going to use their phone to record themselves playing for a half an hour straight. You know, unedited. I got really frustrated.
Yeah.
You know, and I hope my director is not listening to this. So.
Nobody listens to this show.
He's also a singer. Yeah. But you know, I think this is an opportunity to unleash some creativity, all these creative juices to express ourselves in ways that we never would have thought of before.
Yes.
Yes.
You were just
done.
Creative Juices actually reminds me to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for the Brass
What a
Junkies.
segue.
Parker Mouthpieces offers fine customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz artist model tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke model euphonium mouthpiece.
What?
You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I think actually that you should, everybody listening should send an email to Michael Parker, which if you go to parkermouthpieces.com and then click the contact, and then tell him how Parker Mouthpieces have helped your creative juices to flow. And if you could use the hashtag creative juices, and then both in the email, but then also if we could make that trend on Twitter,
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome. Creative juices. So
there's not really anything happening on Twitter right now, so I think
No.
this is a
my
perfect
goodness.
opportunity.
super calm on social media in general. Abby, you
Yes.
look like you wanted to weigh in on that last topic.
I was gonna say, like,
But we're
he's-
out of time. I'm
Oh.
so sorry. No, I'm just kidding. No,
Wow.
I was
Oh,
gonna
wow.
I was gonna ask you, what are your thoughts on that? Because all three of us were nodding along vociferously with Professor Sutherland
That's
there. So
SAT words going on. I think it just
Oh,
ties
yeah.
a lot into what we talked about in the beginning. Like Lance was asking me about like the music education world and how it's like a certain way. And well, hey, we should probably try other types of music and perform other types and just have people enjoying making music, not necessarily just this E flat major scale piece that everyone plays. Not mentioning a certain piece at all by name, but whatever. It's fantastic. You got these people to do creative things, and now you have all of the time in the world because you're sitting at home and you're doing nothing else. So why not just make something that you want to make? And everyone, like, when I first started doing this, it sounded terrible. Oh my goodness, you go back like 2-3 years even, and it's like you listen to I'm recording a bunch of stuff because it sounded so bad, because now
Of course
I have,
it did. It has to. Everyone sounds bad to start with.
but I still posted it, and I
Right.
posted it with all of this clipping and all of this awful noises.
Good
But
for
I was
you.
just so happy
Yeah.
to have done this and to
Right.
have made this arrangement, and look at this video I did, and it's awful, but I love it.
If you listen to the first episodes of the Brass Junkies, like the interviews are great because we had really great and interesting people on who were talking about what they were doing.
Mhm.
But when I say good for you, it's like good for us too, good for anybody. In case that sounded like I was patting anyone on the head, no, it's like as a human, it's really hard to just like to put it out there. Like Scott was saying, you just nailed it. Where Scott was saying that you can't wait until you like have mastered a program to like actually use it, because you can't master it without using it. I mean, this is so obvious, and it's super obvious when somebody that we know, whether it's a consulting client or a student or a friend, is playing that like waiting for perfection game, which is just like fear-based and never ends well. But when it's amazing how when it's this guy in the mirror, then it's a lot harder to spot, right? It's like, well, no, I just need to do a little bit more research. I need to this, I need to that. It's like, no, post the video with the clipping on it. Like nobody dies, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody dies. There's no famine. There's no like nothing happens, except if you don't do it, what happens is that we never get to the great art. And by great, I mean great for you, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean that your first video, I bet if I were to do arrangements and do videos and all of that, there's a 0% chance that my first version would be the exact same level of quality as yours. And I have a suspicion that it would actually be worse than yours, but it might be a little better, might be a little worse. But do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not everyone
I'd
starts at the
guess
same
worse.
place. I would too.
Yeah.
But not everyone starts at the same place. But you need to use wherever you start, it gets here after you do 140 something episodes of a podcast, or when you do your 35th arrangement of Euphonium Quartet. But you have to start. You need a first to get a 35th.
And it's like
Yeah.
a lot of people think that, sorry, you want to, when people
No,
get
no. I
tied
was just gonna say the Ira Glass quote talking about the gap in music in art. You know, and we start. Everyone starts somewhere, and we have this gap between what we like and where the standard is and where we're at. And the only way to close that gap
is to just do it.
is just do it.
do
It's
it.
just to create.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
Sorry.
people get so tied up in like subscriber counts and numbers and views and all of this, that, and the other. And it's like, I understand how you having a certain number of people watch your stuff, or having one particular post not do as well as another type of post that you maybe don't like so much. But it's like, it doesn't matter as long as you like what you're doing, as long as you continue to post what you like to do. Because the way that Goofy Youth kind of took off on Instagram was playing practice videos, and it was all this like practice stuff, and hey, I really liked doing that. But once I graduated, it's like my practice habits changed, and it wasn't so much I'm practicing these 12 pieces every single day and I have 8 bars from each piece that I can play every single day. It changed into, you know, stuff I'm doing with River City, or stuff that I'm doing blah blah blah. And it's like that changed into video game music and the arrangements I'm doing, and I'm not getting as much, you know, traction, I guess, but it's stuff that I like to do a whole lot more, and it's stuff that I find a lot more value in. And that's what matters, is that I'm having so much fun making this stuff and being able to put it out into the world. And like, I find that more people who interact with my stuff, even if it's a fewer number, are more genuine and more like I connect with them better. And now I'm like, now there are people who I know who I can call and be like, hey, would you want to do drums for me? Or hey, would you do trombone or whatever? And it's like, it's different. You gotta love it. And you gotta just start posting it, because if you keep waiting, then someone else is gonna do it. It's like the same thing that everyone's been saying. Just have fun with it, post it, and it'll get better over time. It will.
Yeah, I mean, I applaud you guys for starting a YouTube channel and the Brass Junkies. I mean, good for you. I mean, you guys are really good job. I mean, you guys are swimming in subscribers and views, and I'm just letting you know it gets better. Okay, just stick with it.
Wow. That was harsh.
Well, it's too bad no one's going to hear this episode.
Yeah.
I love you guys. I love you.
Well, and what, Abby, you just stumbled on something very important, because I can't tell you, every time that I get someone who is a Facebook friend, in quotes, I use that as a networking tool. So I mean, if there's 5 mutual friends, I just say yes. Although, actually, truth be told, now I do click just to make sure that you're not a complete. Anyway, but yeah, I used to just accept, any, because I'm also very public about what I post on there. And I would understand why lots of people wouldn't treat it that way. That's how I treat that tool. But I get requests all the time from people like, fill in the blank, suggest that you like the University of Northwest Idaho trumpet studio. Like, I'm just like, why? Like, and I understand that person actually needs to, because there's like a fundamental misunderstanding above them, needs to show them, oh, we've got 500 likes for our studio page on Facebook. But like, I'm never going to watch any of your videos. And it's not because I'm like, I'm not mad. I don't have time to be watching trumpet ensemble videos from someone who I don't even know at a school I've never heard of in Idaho, right? So who cares if you have 500 people, like 500 followers or 10,000 subscribers, if only 200 of them are really, really into what you are doing? Would you rather have, 10,000 subscribers and 200 people who are for real? Or would you rather have 750 people who are all in on everything Goofy Youth? I mean, you'd be insane to take 200 over 750, which is why you can't get wrapped up in the outward number at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah.
It is. And a lot of people, like, you post something and then all of a sudden, instead of gaining people, like, you're losing people. And it's like, oh no. Do people, like, dislike me? Is this... No, if you lose, like, 10, 20 people at a time, who really cares? Because that means that your content is not for them. And that's A-okay. You can follow and not follow whoever you want.
Yeah.
Probably practice that. They don't like you, so be it. You're gonna find people who want to comment and want to work with you and want to get to know you as a human being and whatever. So it's like, I don't have a large Twitch following in comparison to the people who have, like, 50,000 people watch them at once, which just boggles my mind. I maybe get an average of like 15 to 20, but then everyone's talking and having a good time, and I get to know them and they get to know me, and it's a more like intimate experience with these people. And I find that so much more valuable than if like there were 50,000 of them and chat was going so fast I didn't even know who said, hey, happy birthday. I don't know. Yeah. So it's value over the number.
It's impact over just the number. Yeah, that's the thing, is that it's impact. And it's possible to have huge numbers and huge impact as well. Yes. It's not, I mean, of course it is. But that's not something that, how many YouTube subscribers do you have, Scott?
Just about 14,000.
Yeah, you don't have to approximate. I know that you look at that number every single morning. Judge your entire self-worth on it.
That's his alarm clock. It's just the number is projected on the ceiling.
Wake up. Oh, I lost 5. No.
Oh, goodness. This is a stupid question, but when you launched your YouTube channel, how many subscribers did you have? You had 0. I mean, it didn't exist, right? And by the end of the first day...
No, I subscribed myself.
No, but there was a split second when you had 0. And then you had... Yeah.
You can't do that.
Oh, Abby, see, she's now reporting you for violations.
Come on.
If my tuba was more than 3 feet away, I'd play The Price is Right. Yeah. But that's too far. That's too far.
Tommy Johnson, baby.
Yeah, there you go.
My teacher.
But yeah, everybody starts with nothing, right? Everybody starts with nothing, and that's what we got to chase. So speaking of starting with nothing and sometimes coming full circle, I'm worried about our dear friend Jens Lindemann here. He's been undergoing some pretty serious chop problems, and I'm oh. Lannan. Ouch.
Coming in hot.
Wow.
I've never listened to a Brass Junkies episode ever in my life before. I work for you.
Sounds like my wife.
No.
Who still hasn't. She's very proud of telling people that, actually.
Oh.
I think she hears me talk enough at home. So, and she's never cared for Lance. That's actually not true. So Abby, what advice do you have for Jens during these like desperate times of need for this chop problems he's been going through?
Just start recording yourself. And you can listen back. And then, here's the really fun thing with audio editing. No matter how you sound, if you get a 2 seconds worth of a halfway decent note, you can transform that into literally anything you want. And that's not a lot. That's the truth. So you might have trouble with your chops for a while now, but you can always fix it in post.
So he just needs to try and get a decent sound on any one note for 2 seconds.
That's it.
Any note. Doesn't have to be like a B natural. I mean, it could just be like an F or.
It doesn't even have to be in tune.
But it just has to be one.
It just has to be a sound for like a second and a half.
And then you just pay somebody like you or Scott to just make the magic happen.
Take the Media Makers Workshop. We'll teach you how to fix it.
Nice.
Hold on. I think what Jens really needs is to switch to euphonium. We have already determined that euphonium is the easiest instrument. And I have some history with this. I actually switched a student a couple of years ago from trumpet to euphonium. He played a wonderful senior recital. So what I'm going to suggest to Jens is that he enroll at the University of Redlands in an artist diploma, come study with me, and I will teach you euphonium. And because there's clearly not very many good euphonium players out there. So I think there's a blue ocean, that is out there. So that...
See, I would argue that there's actually like too many great euphonium players. Like, yeah, you go to the iTech and like every euphonium,
amazing.
yeah, it's just like, okay, yep, they can play really high and fast, and then there's another one, they can play really high and fast, and like, I've never heard of this person, which doesn't mean anything, but yeah, they can play really high and fast. So
and Danny Boy.
And Danny Boy.
Danny Boy.
So click on the link in the show notes to go to the Media Makers Workshop. That page will show you everything you need to know about their 4 courses. You can take them independently or as a group. Each of the courses is an hour long. You get PDF downloads. There's access to download links to the software that they mention in the shows, and it's really, really fantastic. I watched every minute of all of them, and I can't recommend it highly enough. So go do that.
Yeah, it's video editing and recording, audio editing and recording, streaming, and arranging. You can buy any of the 4 of them separately for $19, or you can buy the whole package for $49. So, and there's also there's a special $149 package where both Scott and Abby will call you up and insult you if you would like.
No.
Oh no!
I don't like insulting people.
Oh well, Scott will insult you twice.
The Abby insult you package is $1,049. Yeah,
we'll invite you to the Comedy Central roast of Abby Lannan.
Yeah, there you go. That would be good, because then at the end you have to get up at the end of your own roast, and then you have to make fun of everybody who was just skewering you for. Wait, Abby, have you ever watched a roast before?
Yeah.
Okay, I was assuming you had, but since you don't like making fun of people, I thought maybe that you wouldn't find that like vehicle of comedy.
People making fun of people. I laugh at you making fun of me. All of you make fun of me at some point.
You do, but that's because you give it back. That's what I like. Is like, no, you do. You just kind of like, you're just like even keel. Then all of a sudden it's just like, bam, you hit, and it's like it's good. It's good. Okay. It keeps our meetings, fresh. Because I can't insult Lance, because Lance is just like, whatever, dude. Like, and Will is bizarrely like even keel, like all the time. So it's not,
I'm just like,
you're the only one who you still react.
Yeah.
Just like... That's what I was gonna say. I should probably stop that.
Oh goodness. Anyway, all right. Well, this has been a pleasure. Thank you to both Scott and Abby for sticking around with us for the bonus episode as well, which we are about to do for our Patreon patrons.
Woo!
Yep. That's when we're going to figure out whether those plants behind Scott are real or fake. We're also going to hear about Lance tell the ficus tree story. No, we're not. We're also going to hear about what the most common mistakes that are made, like with video and audio editing. And
That'll be
yeah,
fun.
I think that's that's about it. So, Lance, is there anything else I'm
No.
Thank you. And that is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies.
You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.